In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look here at the tropics, where we do have a new tropical storm out there, Tropical Storm Jerry, that has gone ahead and developed. It is expected to become a hurricane. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We do have another risk area here as well. It's quite minor. And then we do have a coastal storm on the way. And it's unclear if this is going to be a tropical or non-tropical coastal system. But regardless, this one could be very impactful. So it is going to be a big discussion point today as well. And then we're going to go over the entire upcoming pattern as a whole as far as temperatures and precipitation. So let's first just dive into these tropics. Again, this is expected to become a hurricane, but it is expected to generally stay east of Bermuda, and that isn't a guarantee as of now, as the center of the actual tropical system could track as far west as this cone, if not even further. But the National Hurricane Center is currently calling for the most likely outcome to be quite a ways to the east of Bermuda, which would leave them with very little, if any, impacts from this system. Again, we do have this area here, 10% chance of development over the next 2 days and the next 7. But when we watch this play out, we generally see, we'll watch it again right here, but it's just going to have like a 1 or 2 day window to perhaps develop right here. It's right there before it just strikes right into Mexico. So this one has a very, very limited amount of time for potential development. Let's go ahead and talk about the overall upcoming pattern as a whole. And again, we're going to be looking at these charts because our Arctic oscillation is still expected to go negative, like we talked about yesterday, around that, again, 11th, 12th time frame, and stay negative perhaps for quite a while. This black line right here with the 0 next to it is the neutral line, so anything above that is a positive Arctic oscillation, and anything below that is a negative Arctic oscillation. This generally brings warmer temperatures to the United States, and this generally brings chances of cooler temperatures to the United States, more so than the other. Both can have exceptions, but you're looking at likelihoods here. Also, the NAO, which just kind of helps things out. This is mostly about the temperatures around Greenland and eastern Canada. This is the same thing. In its positive phase, this more so impacts the eastern states. So in its positive phase, this isn't very supportive for deep cold air in the eastern states. But in its negative phase here, it really, really is. The problem isn't this, though. The problem is the PNA, actually, that you hear me talk about a lot. Because these models have gone from yesterday showing this PNA going positive and staying positive to really just quickly shooting positive here, as you can see, and then just instantly going back into a negative phase and really struggling to get near a positive phase. This is the GFS ensemble model. The blue there is the control, which is pretty much just the GFS typical model that we look at a lot of the time. So that one finally goes positive by the 22nd. I mean, we've been talking about cold way before the 22nd, so this would be problematic. Also, the European ensemble model here is rebounding us closer to neutral, if not maybe flirting with positive, just around the 14th, 15th, which is just right around the corner. I'm sure you guys can be patient for that, but still, we get this shoot to a positive PNA and then this immediate rebound back to maybe even a further negative PNA than we had before. And then it finally rebounds again, starting around that 13th, 14th time frame, and it reaches close to a neutral PNA for that point forward. Now, keep that in mind as we go throughout the video. Again, PNA, for those of you that have not heard me talk about it before, just means the temperatures out west for Western North America. So its negative phase means there's colder temperatures out there, and its positive phase means that there is warmer temperatures out there. And typically, the opposite of what's happening in the western areas of North America is going to occur in the eastern regions of North America. So that is why this is so critical. The most critical for the eastern states out of the two that we looked at before. It's the most important. Now, here's your past 7 days of temperatures so far, and this is as of actually Monday afternoon. So let me see if I can refresh this actually and see if we can get a later date on that. No, that's the latest we have for some reason. Okay. We see that we've had cooler temperatures along the west. So again, this is a negative PNA that we were just talking about. And you can see the effect taking place here. Warmer temperatures throughout, especially the central states. But typically this would influence the east a lot more, even the east coast. But this negative PNA is unique in the fact that it's more hugging the immediate west coast. So because these impacts are further west, so are the warmer temperatures. These impacts are also further west than they would typically be. So this is a little bit of an unusual one. Let's take a look at the precipitation, first things first. And we do have a cold front on the way here. We see it right there sweeping through, and this is bringing showers and thunderstorms to all of these areas in here. We do see an overall warmer pattern out west setting up. So again, positive PNA is going to shoot up for like a day or two and then want to go negative immediately after. So we do see the cooler air trying to move in here, but it's going to be relatively short-lived. So let's watch this play out. Tomorrow on Wednesday the 8th, that cold front is arriving for the east, so we see some rainfall happening for that east coast area. Also cooler temperatures, but not deep cold. This is not hugely cold compared to normal by any means. This is maybe closer to normal, if not slightly below normal temperatures for a lot of the east here. And then immediately by Thursday the 9th, we already see that positive PNA coming to an end. We can see there's like a trough that is around for the western states. So there's overall cooler temperatures still around for this western area. Most of your ridge is happening here around the four corner states and plains. We do still have generally cooler temperatures than we've been dealing with along the east, but this is not some huge cold pattern at all. Friday here on the 10th, again, looks warm out west. It's stormy though. It's a little messy, and we end up with a very mild trough in the east still. Rainfall again around. Also the southeast and Great Lakes dealing with some showers. Saturday on the 11th here is when this coastal storm starts to get going. Now, I'm going to remember this date here because we're going to just go backwards. Watch this cold front move through and then stall out in the southeast area and then eventually spit out a tropical cyclone. Or maybe not a tropical cyclone. I got a little ahead of myself there. It could be a tropical cyclone, but it also could be a non-tropical, very intense coastal low. So more like a nor'easter type system. Both are kind of on the table for this one, in my opinion. But the closer and closer we get, the more this one has looked like a nor'easter to me. Which, regardless, we've already had an idea of the potential winds and rainfall from this one. And that's not going to change too much, regardless of if it's a nor'easter or like a tropical storm. It's going to be an intense system if it plays out this way, which the models have been consistent. So let's watch this play out. Watch this cold front skirt through. A lot of the energy ends up off the southeast there. This is by Thursday the 9th. And then it starts to build. Here's by the 11th is when it's getting going. And again, we're getting pretty impactful conditions here up and down that southeast coastline. Most of the rainfall is for North Carolina and Virginia there. But a lot of that wind is going to be all over the place with this one. We also see a trough building out west and lots of storminess, even snowfall for the mountainous areas out there. So this is just, again, an all-around really active pattern out west here by this point. Sunday, we see that low still intensifying down to a 992 there. Lots of precipitation for southern New England and a lot of the mid-Atlantic. Again, strong winds are going to be a threat with this one as well. So this is just going to be an all-around impactful system. I have no doubt that this one is very likely to develop. The question is it going to develop and really hug the coast like this? Or is it going to trend east and kind of move offshore and become non-impactful that way? Because I think that that's a more likely solution to where we don't end up seeing this thing, as opposed to it just not happening at this point, because the models have been so consistent with it. We're getting closer and closer. So I think this storm is happening. It's just a question, again, of the track, which could change. And when that energy is all up here currently, as of today on the 7th, the models are going to have trouble because this one's going to do a huge like loop and sort of just stick around in that area. So I think when we get it offshore here in the southeast area, so think the 10th, 11th especially, we're going to get a lot of good info. But the problem is by later on the 11th and 12th is when this storm would be impacting areas into the 13th. And look at how it just hangs around there, guys. Here's into the Monday the 13th time frame. I mean, that system is just hanging out, bringing tons of rainfall, and then it eventually moves through. But look at the pattern we're stuck in here, guys. We have a negative AO and negative NAO, which is usually really favorable for cold in the eastern United States when they're combined like that. But we have a trough that just does not want to break up here. And this has been a much more dramatic feature on this model run as opposed to yesterday. So this is a huge change, actually. And for those of you hoping for cooler conditions, this is a bad change. We see most of your ridge over the central states, similarly to what we've been dealing with. So again, ridge building in this area, and we're only able to get like really neutral temperatures to maybe slightly below average temperatures at times here in the east. We can tell by the dipping of these lines here. So that dipping is indicative of cooler temperatures in the areas where it has dipped over. So this isn't a crazy, crazy cold pattern. And I mean, that's 10 days out. We still see a major low develop over the plains, northern plains into the Midwest, and that does move into the Great Lakes area and bring a cold front. But again, it's a high precipitation cold front, not a really high cold front, because we end up with this by the end of the model run. Look at that jet stream, just flat. I mean, this is not favorable for cold anywhere. I can't imagine having a negative AO, negative NAO, and this is the end result. That is crazy, because typically, again, at least the West or somebody's going to see a trough. Maybe it's not the East, but somebody sees it. Nobody's seeing it in this instance on this European model run. We will look at the GFS, which is a little bit more bullish on some cold air a little bit later on. Now, total precipitation is alarming for some spots, and it's good news for some spots. The West is highly active here. The upper Midwest and northern plains are seeing quite a bit of activity. And then now, kind of this East Coast area is highly improved, even with some of these Mid-Atlantic and, again, Carolinas area seeing highly above average precipitation there. But this is just overall a better look for the East. The most alarming area is going to be in here, where we're seeing almost nothing, because they have been dealing with really dry conditions for weeks and even months now, and this is just continuing to get worse. Looking at the anomalies, again, some of these eastern areas are a lot closer to normal, if not above normal, but these areas here are just really, really alarming, where the precipitation just shut down. That is incredibly bad for these regions that really need precipitation. Again, the West is doing phenomenal, and so is this Northern Plains, Upper Midwest region as well. Now, looking at the total snowfall here, this is through the entire model run. Yesterday we were seeing much deeper cold. We were even seeing some isolated snowfall, flurries happening across some of your mountainous northeast, even in West Virginia, the mountains of West Virginia, and even portions of like Michigan, Wisconsin area. But we see none of that today. We really just see the West cashing in on a ton of snowfall, which isn't as unusual for this time of year, but still, this is really decent snowfall amounts for this time of year. Now, the temperatures on the European model, we're going to just kind of move through. We're warmer for now. Here's that initial trough that we get. It starts out mostly Wednesday, Thursday the 9th here, Friday the 10th, Saturday the 11th. It's hanging around for that East Coast area, but we do eventually build into a warmer pattern in the East, especially for mid next week. This is already a good almost 10 days out, but in yesterday's model run, we had warmth building in the West. We see this severe Arctic air in the West here, so a complete 180. And again, as a result of that, we call it a positive PNA. It forces this warmer air up into the central and eastern states. So this is almost a, no pun intended, polar opposite of yesterday's model run outputs, which for the long range, it does tend to flip-flop, but this is a very, very severe change just overnight. So I'll keep you guys updated, obviously, on all this. We do see some cooler air moving into the east again at times, but it's just not really nearly as much as yesterday. And we see Arctic air return to the west again by the 22nd to make matters worse. And that warmer air looks to be building again for the central and eastern states. So again, a complete 180 here. The GFS model, to some extent, is a little bit more optimistic. We see this big cool down here moving into the east that sticks around. And we actually get, instead of that purely really cool temperature pattern out west, we actually build into a warm pattern out west still on this one. For the 18th time frame, we get a major trough in the east. Then we warm up a little bit before another major trough moves in for the 22nd. So again, this is your end of the model run, 23rd. And then this is just the day prior on the European model. Look at how opposite this is. And I'll move it backwards just to make it fair in comparison. But here's the same exact hour on the European model and GFS model. That is completely opposite. And again, I'll move us back to that other first trough that moves in. So here is the 19th, 0Z the 19th. Here, I guess that's a little closer, but still, yeah, that is actually pretty close. So I can't complain about that one. But this European model does not translate this into deep cold into the east. It really just stays the same as this. The GFS model is really just showing more and more and more cold air compared to that model. over the course of, again, like the 15th to 25th time frame. So we'll see which one's correct. We'll see if the European model kind of folds and comes back to what the GFS model is showing, or if the GFS model is, over the next couple of days, going to end up following what the European model has done in kind of changing its opinion. We shall see. With all that being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.